5 years ago, Hugo Campos was diagnosed with a medical condition that makes it hard for his heart to pump blood. The ICD implanted in his chest collects hundreds of data points a day on everything from heart rhythm changes to fluid buildup. That info is beamed back to the manufacturer, Medtronic, which crunches the data and sends the results to his doctor. But not to Hugo, who only gets annotated reports from his cardiologist.
What's ironic is the fact that the patient is the one living with heart disease. It's not the manufacturer, it's not the doctor, and yet the patient is the one left in the dark.
A recent swell of digital medical data collected by devices outside of a doctor's office is raising some thorny questions. Who owns the rights to a patient's digital footprint? And who should control that information? Not just for medical implants, but also smartphone apps and over-the-counter monitors that track things like sleep patterns and hours of physical activity. As healthcare pushes into the digital age, the legal and regulatory definition of medical data is becoming blurred. By law, doctors must hand over traditional medical records to patients who request them within 30 days. But when it comes to data collected outside of a medical facility, it's unclear when that information is legally considered a medical record, and whether doctors are the only ones who can deliver it. Currently, there are no guidelines from the Department of Health and Human Services that address these questions. Hugo and a small number of other heart patients have requested direct access to their data from Medtronic, but patients say so far the company has declined, referring them to their doctors. Medtronic says FDA regulations allow it to send doctors' reports through its web portal, but not to patients. For that, Medtronic says it would have to apply for FDA approval and design a website specifically for patients, a process that could be costly. And even if it did, the company isn't convinced ICD patients, half of which are over 65, would even want the information.
We don't have concerns about handing patients their information. There is just no real overwhelming patients that are asking us for that data.
And even with FDA approval, the company says other regulations may still restrict it from delivering data.
There are legal requirements, there are HIPAA requirements, and this is really uncharted waters.
As it stands, most patients who want their data get short summaries through a doctor. Hugo's biannual consultations with his doctor have racked up out-of-pocket costs of up to $350 per visit. He says he feels forced to pay for data that should already belong to him. Medical professionals disagree about whether or not giving patients immediate access to their data would be useful. Some worry that patients may misinterpret the flood of information.
Let's take a patient getting an X-ray, for example. The patients don't get the X-ray information from the tech or from the company who provides the X-ray equipment. They actually go back to their physician, who appropriately then interprets that data and provides that information to the patients.
But Hugo believes regular feedback would better help him manage his health.
It's my second day in a dairy, meat-free diet.
He already uses a spreadsheet to document changes in his condition.
What I found is that a Scotch whiskey puts me in atrial fibrillation. It has done that twice, and so I don't drink Scotch whiskey anymore. So what technology allows, and the access to information and access to data allows us to do, is to have a better awareness of our health.
Several defibrillator companies, including St. Jude and Biotronic, say they would balk at handing over data directly to patients. Physicians and hospitals are their customers, they say, not the patients. And though Medtronic isn't making money from selling patient data, it may in the future. The company is considering selling the information to health systems and insurers for a variety of uses. But commercial plans for the data remain nebulous.
We have not robustly discussed selling the data per se. We are simply in this digital revolution that we all are embracing.
But Hugo says the information his defibrillator tracks should ultimately belong to him.
It's my body, it's my heart, and it's my data. We are all considered responsible adults to take care of every aspect of our lives. We manage our careers, we manage our finances. How come it's any different when it comes to healthcare?
For the Wall Street Journal, this is Linda Blake in San Francisco.
Now, you guys saw some big announcements from Hara in regards to Junction. We understand that this particular, event has already come and gone. Some of you guys seen some highlights. I thought I'd get into a little bit more in regards to elaborating about this. Okay, so let's go ahead and full screen this. Pull it up. You'll see here that you have the one and only Hara at this particular event. And of course, some people share this in regards to, was it the 12th? Okay, thought I would zoom in a little bit about this. So check this out for yourself. And when you zoom in on Hara and what he has presented here, clearly you can see that's Hara, right? So you will see here, it talks about like a solution, all right? And it talks about, for example, data pools. You see this things when you zoom in about an AI model hub, and of course, layer 2 for AI, all right? Barely can see it at the bottom because it's kind of blurry. Talks about the whole thing like interoperability, okay? Jump into the next part of why I want to obviously share all this, okay, is this. So I know there's a lot of talk about AI. A lot of you guys are really excited about it. You feel as though anywhere from 2024 to 2026, if you're invested in AI tokens, you should see like, crazy price action and so on. Some of you guys like Jack Thompson literally tell me on the phone, 9,000%. Well, guess what? I am not a fortune teller or anything like that. And this isn't technically my AI deep dive, right? And I will get that out to you guys in due time. But this is more like a combination of confirming, in my eyes, some things that a lot of us weren't really aware of, okay? So for one, if you're wondering about the source for this, if you go to jasmy-global.medium.com, you will see one of these recent things being mentioned. And it says specifically, currently speaking, OpenAI's products are difficult to prove how the answers were generated. This is because the input data is mainly from the internet and lacks accuracy. We would like, as in Jasmy, a distributed data library for accurate data input from, of course, two perspectives. For one, the PDL, the database associated with the owner itself, from which data feeds to AI training can be traced. So I want you guys to hear that, especially about the part of OpenAI. What we're going to do now is take a pause to show this chopped up clip of the one and only Taro Kono when he was interviewed. Pay attention to this, especially if you're talking to your broskies and sisters that are in the audience as we speak. So let's go ahead and get that clip to you. It's pretty short, to the point for the most part, but definitely worth paying attention to. So listen to this. Here we go.
You yourself, I know you've experienced your deep fakes, for example. Have you toyed with ChatGPT? What do you make of this new technology?
Well, ChatGPT is great. I feel a lot of possibility, but you need to be very careful. I asked the ChatGPT who Taro Kono, who Kono Taro is, and it came back with wrong answer. So you need to be careful how you're going to deal with it. but I think the technology will get better, and we hope. And what we are really concerned is most of the data set that has been fed to ChatGPT, GPT-4, other generative AI, mostly in English language. So there are a very small amount of data set in the Japanese language, as well as Korean, Tagalog, Malay, Indonesian, the minority language data set compared to English is not big. So it could be skewed. And we are now trying to come up with strategy. How are we going to feed the data set in the Japanese language?
Okay. What I'm trying to establish with you guys is the concept of supply and demand, and if anything, chopping up these particular clips Sorry, there's just, got a little bit dust in here earlier because crazy weather. So supply and demand. Think about what Mr. Taro Kono mentioned, okay, in that regard. We have some more clips to share with you guys. Some of them are actually pretty recent. There was one actually from mainstream news, believe it or not. I think it was maybe a week or two. And I thought, interesting to hear his thoughts and concerns in regards to Japan and the role that they're playing for this next era of taking things from Web 2 to Web 3. We're going to do now is jump into this next particular part of the outline. Let's go ahead and do that. And what you're going to see right here, also very, very interesting, is this. And this comes from KJ. I'm sure you guys have heard about KJ. Let's go ahead and share this straight from X. And basically speaking, if you're wondering about KJ, he is this guy, right? He's a community manager in regards to Jasmy Labs, Jasmy, and Junction, right? He's kind of, I guess you could say, the American PR guy, if you want to call him that. He talks about how this weekend or last weekend, the team's event was held in Tokyo. A lot of you guys have seen other stations covering this. I think also, our brother Rob. But Junction had a booth, and there was, of course, KJ participating, and of course, can meet him and all this, right? A lot of us kind of know about this. And what's really interesting is when you zoom in, as the saying goes, let's take you to this. And, it talks about, for example, this summit, 120 speakers, 100 VCs, VC investors, right? Again, I want you guys to pay attention to the VC investors because there's one in particular that really, 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 in my eyes, flew under the what? The radar, big time. Of course, there's this retweet that was basically, Japanese. I've interpreted it into I almost said AI, into English, so Japanese to English. So many speakers, right? 5,000, right? All this stuff about this event that really happened. But your key takeaway is invigorating the Web3 AI industry in Japan and how it will present the latest information and unreleased information, the schedule, etc., etc. When we go over to the web3.teams.co.jp site, you will see this summit. Of course, this is this year's summit, right? It already happened. All these ones going across the screen. The one that I want you to pay attention to is the one that talks about Emergo. This is one that really flew under the radar. Why am I pointing it out tonight? Well, again, smash the like. Let's get into why you want to pay attention to, quote unquote, Emergo, right? So for one, I'm going to take you over to here. This is straight from the Emergo site. So if you want to check it out, it's EMERGOBYUL.com. Go to the About page. Why is Max pointing this out? I'll show you why here in a second. So the first thing you want to pay attention to is where you see the talk about a solutions provider, right? And what they're all about. So Emergo, by UL's market access team, maintains offices in 25 global locations. They have extensive network of medical device, IVD, RA/QA experts. They have partnered with key industry professionals, including Med Envoy for European representation services. They have also partnered with Greenlight Guru, what a name, right? For electronic quality management systems, Compliance Wire for UL solutions, in regards to electronic learning management solutions. But check this out for a second. They launched a regulatory affairs management suite, which is called RAMS, back in 2019. And of course, RAMS has quickly become a go-to for what? Software as a service solution to complement traditional RA/QA consulting services. And of course, there's a lot more about some of this. But what's also interesting, and I'm not pointing it out in regards to saying this is what you clicked on for ISO, but this company, okay, has an ISO certificate. And what's really, really interesting is when you go or even on the far right side about their products and their goals, it's about this whole thing of medical device usability and how they have offices all over North America, Europe, Asia. And it's really, really interesting to see that this company decided to be at this particular event and where they're trying to take their company to in regards to like the next level, if you will. When we go to the next part of emergobyul.com/services, again, understanding that they also went to the Teams Web3 AI Summit, why would a company like this want to find out more about AI? Well, think about it. Look what it says in regards to privacy, security services. Emergo's by UL data privacy team has extensive experience in helping medical device, in vitro diagnostic manufacturers, patient privacy regulation, or regulatory requirements, I should say, for what? Global markets. They have in-depth experience, I should say, with the US and European data privacy requirements. That's interesting. They're also addressing and helping people with the whole thing of manufacturer needs for a range of what? Connected devices. Do we now have an idea that if you're this particular company, you might want to pay attention to what Jasmy could provide or bring to the table? At least I would. I definitely would. And I'm not saying that necessarily the whole team listened to Hara, but it's very interesting to see these particular people there. So we jump to the next part, a little bit more about Emergo. Look what it says here. Let's full screen this. Talks about this whole thing of human factors, the research and design to bring medical products to market. They have a consulting team that's helped customers succeed in hundreds of product development projects. Over 50 full-time specialists. Of course, offices, like I point out, US, Europe, and Asia. Expert in US FDA and global human factors engineering and those standards. But they're uniquely focused on the medical and healthcare domain. Let's listen to this. Pay attention to this for 2 minutes and 22 seconds. This is just the tip of the iceberg, everybody. I want to give you just this. Listen to this. Smash the like on both X and YouTube. Let's get the program out. You'll be glad that you paid attention to the presented material tonight. I'm telling you flat out, it gets even better. Here we go.
Whether reading, tapping, gripping, twisting, or pulling, people connect with products through the user interface. At Emergo by UL, our Human Factors Research and Design team optimizes the UI, making your products people-friendly. We bring deep expertise in user interface and user experience design to every step of the process. From discovery to research, analysis, design, evaluation, and validation. We bring a holistic, user-centered approach that fortifies your product development. Good process creates well-designed products that are easier to use, so users have an experience that's safe, effective, and satisfying. Poor process produces poorly designed products that can be annoying, confusing, or even harmful. Integrating our user-centered design expertise into any stage of your product development helps you reduce risk, boost consumer confidence, make faster decisions, and get to market more quickly. UI design starts with discovering your product goals and user needs. Next, we conceptualize through design sessions. Then, we craft new features and workflows. From there, we build mock-ups and prototypes. Analyze how people interact with them. Evaluate the data to quickly refine the design, and repeat. Based on feedback, analysis, and people's interactions, we keep refining to achieve an exceptional user experience. This process is proven and reliable. Our team of thought leaders produces books, articles, and seminars that reinforce a simple principle. There are no user errors, only design flaws that cause use errors. So we optimize every contact point in hardware and packaging, software and labeling, instructions and training to design a better user experience, improve your product safety, and meet regulators' expectations. Rely on the expertise of Emergo by UL.
Okay, so basically this part about ISO, all right, in regards to Emergo, would you like to see their particular ISO certificate? Well, let's go ahead and pull that up as well. It's just going to close out a few more tabs because there's going to be a lot, basically. And yes, let's pull this up. Here it is, straight from the Emergo PDF. And like you can see on the screen, it's in regards to their certificate of registration. It's quality management system, ISO 13485 colon 2016. And basically what you see here is they have this, I guess you could say, headquartered in Austin, Texas. There's a certificate number that you see right here. Talks about how they operate a quality management system which complies with the requirements of ISO 13485 2016 for the following scope. What is the scope? Basically, clinical affairs, quality system implementation, the training of such things, and basically being European authorized representation and even Australian sponsor delivered to the medical device industry. Okay. And this part, which we'll get into a little bit later, for and on behalf of BSI. I'll get a little bit more into the whole thing about BSI a little bit later. Some of you guys that really study this, you already know where I'm going with this. I know you do. So let's jump into the next part of what we have. Here's a little bit more about this from literally the ISO.org site. And this particular standard, the 13485 standard. And no, I'm not saying that Jasmy has a standard, but I'm going to point out some things. And I'm not even getting started. You think that this is where I'm at with the whole ISO thing? We haven't even got to the stuff. That would be technically fluff. I'm not going to give you fluff. All right, I'm going to give you something solid. Check this out for a second. So we have ISO 13485 2016 medical devices. Quality management systems requirements for regulatory purposes. When was the standard last reviewed and confirmed? It was in 2020. So that's good that, they kind of keep up with the audit, because in that regard, maybe they would fall out of compliance, right? They have a big old thing about this, abstract and so on, gets into the nitty gritty about all this and why it's important. But again, kind of like back to what I was talking about earlier, and that is the whole thing of BSI. All right, let's jump into this next particular part. Okay, so why is Max pointing this out? Well, I'll get into all that, but what is the purpose for ISO 13485? Well, if you go over here, it basically states a little bit more about quality management system. And again, if you're wondering about Jasmy, we're going to give you a reference on that as well. Okay. For medical device manufacturing, ISO 13485 is the medical industry's optimal medical device standard, which ensures that all medical devices meet the proper regulatory compliance laws and customer needs. As we get more into this, specifically as regards to the meaning of ISO 13485, internationally agreed upon set of standard quality management systems, talks about the design, the installation, the services, the manufacturing, medical devices. Back to ISO 13485, first published in 1996, and has, of course, been revised in 2003 and 2016, so on and so forth, right? So there's more explanation about this, but it was designed to be used by organizations involved in design, production, installation, and it could be used by internal and external parties, such as certification bodies, to help them basically with their auditing process. But it blankets a big thing in regards to medical devices. What about medical devices and IoT? Think about it for a second, okay? So as I got into this a little bit more, I said to myself, well, Do we have any examples lately in regards to Jasmy and all this? In regards to like a medical management system or any type of management system? Well, the answer is yes. How so? If you went over to jasmy-global.medium.com, where it talks about Jasmy Secure PC, a strong security solution using blockchain. Well, remember how we talked about the whole thing of Kinro Shishi? I don't know if you guys remember that. Back to this, just briefly, as an example. Okay, so we're going to see here a little bit back, back to the topic. Talks about some of this stuff, right? Strong security solution doing what? Well, using blockchain technology and how it's going to start a service linkage with, API with Kinro Shishi, cloud-based attendance management system, developed and provided by Software Agency System, has the references to some of these people, and it's a company engaged in the life balance management. Shows a little bit more about this. Of course, it's in Japanese, but the point was a computer operation information recording of the drive recorder function of Jasmy Secure PC with attendance management. You don't think that the medical industry doesn't have a lot of, attendance management, especially when it comes to their staff? Again, small example, but is there something bigger than what we know on the surface? Absolutely there is. Let's take you over to the next part of this, because it gets into this pretty well detailed, in my opinion. Just got to the highlights. Like I said, some of that got deleted earlier, and I was, had to scramble for you guys, but I managed to pull it back up. What is Cloud Attendance Management System? Kinro Shishi means line of labor in Japanese. Look at this, cloud-based management, attendance management system. It's got, some complexities, but it's used in regards to the workforce. It's evolved to handle complex attendance management for hotels and, boom, hospitals. Interesting. Can also operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So this thing of Jasmy in regards to Kinro Shishi, boom, there is your proof that it's not a nothing burger. There is no what ifs. We already have an example. And how long ago? I don't know. 2 weeks to a month ago, give or take. That's pretty recent. Is that all I have? No way. No way at all. Let's jump over to this. A little bit more about this. This is from kinru44.jp. Kinrou 44.jp. This is interpreted from Japanese to English. What is the thing that says here? Talks about this in regards to shift management, project man-hour management, collaboration with companies, services, peace of mind support. And look what also says. Does it involve workflows? Yeah, if you do a Control F on this site, it literally comes to a one-of-one result. And yeah, workflows. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Do we have an ecosystem of these guys? Oh yeah, of course. And I covered that in the past. Let's take you over to something that you might not have been aware of. We just talked about, obviously medical. What about medical data? What about that valuation in regards to medical data? How big could it really, really be? Right? Well, it's absolutely huge. This is from Investor Place. I guess you guys know. I cover a lot of things, at least weekly, from Investor Place. And for the purposes of the outline tonight, the Investor Place update will be at the very, very end of the show. Investor Place wrote up about Jasmy and wrote up about a whole thing about medical valuation. That caught my eye. Should catch your eye too. Let's jump into that as well. If you appreciate the coverage, smash the like, share the show. Let's get this out to a broader audience. So, as you can see here, Investor Place does a report about this. Says that in a parallel universe, Jasmy could have a future. Individual medical records are worth up to $250 per person. This is from Investor Place. You want to talk about me doing deep dives. These guys are literally like some of the smartest people you can possibly imagine that have a track record of picking like top picks in crypto and also stocks. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, medical records worth up to $250 per person. Those willing to share that information would or should receive significant compensation. Plenty of hedge funds would love to know spending habits to front run earning reports. The $10 value of banking and credit card transactions could be far more valuable in these hands. Jasmy Coin's stated goals are Oslo Noble. Founding team, if accurate, offers a pedigree that few crypto tokens can match. Yeah, can match. But what is this thing about $100 or $250 per person? I mean, my God, that sounds a lot. Like it's a lot of money, right? Well, do we have any particular example? Well, I want to give a shout out to MS because he pointed this out, and I took a screenshot on this particular one. He pointed out on his email, short and to the point, listen to this, guys, 100 million PDL users right out of the gate. There are approximately 104 million adults in Japan, which will, or I should say, wish the government issuance of my number cards. We're going to get into that here in a bit as well. And of course, from the Cyber Trust page. And I have shared this. By linking the PDL and iTrust identity verification service, it will be possible to verify identity through personal or public personal authentication using electronic certificate built into the IC chip of the My Number card. So we just gave you a reference of that particular company and their certification. But what about this other part? It says in the case of public personal identification or authentication, identity verification can be completed online instantly by reading the My Number card using a smartphone app, further improving user convenience by reducing input effort and speedy identity verification. Very interesting. How would you like to hear it from the horse's mouth in regards to IC cards? Remember Tarakona, once again, how he's literally all over the place, Europe, you name it, introducing the whole concept of DFFT. Share this particular video clip with you. It's worth pointing out. And then we'll come back here in just a minute. But I thought it was crucial, and that's why I chopped it up for you guys. So we're going to get into this. And yes, listen to what he has to mention in regards to AI, the private sector, all these particular types of things. Here we go.
Has been pushing to invest in AI at a time when some Western countries are looking to halt further development of ChatGPT, for example, and regulate the industry. Why is the administration so eager to adopt the tech in Japan?
Well, Japan is now losing population very fast. Every year, nearly 700,000 less people in Japan. So unlike European countries or other countries, AI, computer, robots are not a threat to labor force in Japan. Society in Japan is aging. So if we would like to continue human-centric society, we need to utilize those technologies like AI, robots, computer as much as possible. So we are more eager to try new AI technologies, provided that the data set will be honored. So we are now talking to Microsoft and other providers of the technology, how we can manage data set creation for AI.
And what's your take on the role AI can have on society going forward? Where could AI make the most impact in Japan?
We are hoping technology could replace where technology can do better. and the human being will need to be concentrating what human being need to be doing, most likely dealing with their people. So we are hoping to try in the government ministries. I'm asking all the ministries ideas how you can utilize AI technology to make their work more productive and more efficient. We are very excited to do that.
And on that note, do you still have ambitions to become prime minister? I have to ask.
Well, trying.
Okay. All right, last and not least at all, as a leader, what do you think is the one thing Japan needs most right now?
We need to energize the private sector. I think the private sector in Japan is sitting on a big amount of cash, and private sector in Japan needs to use them widely, invest them in wisely. So we need to energize the private sector. We are not the socialist country. We are capitalist, market economy, free society. So we would like to energize the private sector.
Numerous times, at least 3 times, Taro Kono said to energize the private sector, and it also talked about going gangbusters in regards to AI. See what you want. Who's a private sector company is Jasmy. So there's that. Am I going to end it with just that? No, I'm not going to end it with just that. Take into this next part of what we have here in just a bit. Very interesting to get into some of these key things. So back to this whole thing about what Investor Place was sharing in regards to Jasmy, and of course, talking about medical records worth up to $250 per person. We have some more examples about the valuation of data. As I jumped into this is from the link that Investor Place was sharing. While that video was playing, I was actually able to pull this up because, again, that was also some of the research got deleted for some reason. So, how your personal data is valued by others. Let's talk about this for a second. Social platforms, how they value your data. Companies like X, LinkedIn, YouTube that provide users with a place to create their content. Of course, as we know, use data as a bargaining chip. We know that, right? But of course, business was booming since 2020. LinkedIn, for one, earned more than $3 billion in revenue by providing advertisers access to 700 million plus users. Likewise, YouTube hit $6.9 billion advertising revenue in that same window. How companies value your data? Look at this. Companies are willing to invest billions in advertising because collected data sets create a clear picture for where to place those dollars. Accurate data can reveal personal preferences, affiliations, family dynamics, politics. We get the drill, right? But the point is, it's not just that, right? It's the companies, like it says here, and the data that they collect and how it's an opportunity to better understand the needs, desires, and pain points of an audience, and more specifically, how they can adjust their products, services, and messages to better meet those points. As we also know, criminals will try to use your data. Criminals steal personal data for a variety of reasons. Blackmail, identity theft, extortion are most common. And they would try to sell that information to anyone worth willing to pay that. These buyers often include thieves, criminal organizations, data brokers, even foreign governments. Theft enables criminals to sell home addresses at lower prices compared to data brokers. This is because there is no oversight, accountability, minimal overhead. And this part, no oversight, accountability. When you realize where we have the concept of supply and demand kicking in, I mean, do all roads lead to something as simple as the concept of Jasmy? I think they do. But as I got more into this, check out this. Why is data so valuable? Well, while there's certainly a shady market for stolen Netflix passwords or phishing accounts in regards to Facebook and so on, typically speaking, companies will use personal data in 2 ways. And here they are. Number one, direct advertising, predictive analytics. But data collection for direct advertising, look what it says. Companies use data to ensure they're targeting the right individuals, right? Who wants to watch an ad that has nothing to do with your interest? But the point is this, like a 25-year-old, his first time that he's having his, first time mom is going to respond to an ad targeting pregnant women. Very different than a 35-year-old mother of three. Very true. Or a 22-year-old Middle Eastern male interested in sneakers. Stock advice might have more value than streetwear brand than a 45-year-old white male. What about some of the predictive analytics and the messaging that's involved in that? Well, companies can find new market opportunities by interest of collecting lots of personal data from people in the same group. What about actual money? Well, it says here that companies create more sophisticated products, platforms to refine the services. The internet and advertising turned $139.8 billion in revenue back in 2020, has increased those profits due to at least 12% since 2018, all back on the back end of your personal data. Now, I want to point this out. I love how they point out like 2020. We talk about 4-year halvings, right? Especially when it comes to, BTC, and obviously the Bitcoin halving is going to happen. I think it's going to happen on the 19th. Personally, some people feel as though it's going to happen on 420. To each his own. But we are in 2024, and basically it's like this from Invisibly. How much is that data really worth? You saw in the thumbnail. It's going to give you something old. And again, Investor Place cited them, so I think it's worth paying attention to. It says, like any market, the valuation of data fluctuates, personal data specifically. And it's based on the supply and demand of just that. Females, for example, on the planet, right? Supply and demand in regards to that, but male data tends to come at a slightly higher premium. Likewise, different markets, different demographics, evaluate differently. As you can see here, in a 2020 study by Matt Keeper and YouGov, they showed an example of personal data for a group, I should say, of 18 to 24-year-olds, and how it's notably higher than any other demographic. While businesses have shown a willingness to pay significant amounts for personal data from Black and Middle Eastern audiences, that same discrepancy exists across regions, economic backgrounds, and even education levels based on how much companies value each demographic. And here's the nitty-gritty. This is maybe one of the part that you were waiting for. As you can see here, it talks about the cost for data per person. Males about penny more than females, right? I'm not trying to make things controversial, but those are the reports. Percentage of population, less percentage in that population compared to females, only 3%. What that age range that they're talking about? Well, as you can see, ages 18 to 24 dominate that price of cost of data per person. 55 plus, look at that difference, guys. I know a lot of you guys are in that age bracket, and that's okay, but look at that valuation of data. So we're giving the examples of data sets and the valuation. Percentage of population, even though age 55 and up is a higher percentage of population, they don't value the demographic more than ages 18 to 24. What about ethnicity? Well, Middle Eastern, way up. 62 cents cost for data per person. What about percentage of population on the low end? See how that works? Interesting. 1.21%. What about family annual income? Well, if you are making 120,000 to 150,000, give or take, your data is worth significantly higher than somebody, who's part of the, let's face it, maybe the lower middle class. So there's a lot to be mentioned here in regards to valuations. But if you weren't aware about it, that back in 2021, you could have bought access to a hacked Facebook account on the dark web for $65, or its crypto equivalent, an entire US voter database for $100, or even hacked a Coinbase verified account for $610. By comparison, a brand might value your personal email address at $89 if they're securing that information through a more auspicious means. What kind of data set is valuable? Well, like I've always mentioned, healthcare is at the highest rated mark, okay, at $215.15. And that's an average, right? There's obviously ones that could be way higher. For example, what, guys? Think about it. One of the topics of tonight. It's not clickbait, right? When we talk about, like, maybe something that has to do with neuroscience, brain surgery, stuff like that. That data is probably worth way more than just the average data set for medical. But what you're going to see here, payment card details, $5.40, banking records, $4.12. I mean, obviously those three are really going to stand out. Social security number, I mean, it's crazy stuff to see some of that stuff on the dark web. But the fact remains that companies do in fact collect data in a variety of ways. But regardless of their application, the goal of those methods is to typically help them better understand their audience. Only fair that we as consumers understand the value that we bring to the table. So what data is worth the most? Well, check this out. For the dark web, it's cloned MasterCard with the PIN, $25 valuation. Actually it doesn't start in any particular order. Let's point out another one, credit card details, account balance, up to $1,000, about $150 on the dark web. So there's a lot of crazy examples in regards to dark web and payment processing, all this stuff, social media, lots of value, right? But in regards to the value of your personal data, while there's many platforms that view users as generators of data, not people, and because the data is generated on their platform, they own it. The philosophy is in direct conflict with our belief that people have the right to own their data, deserve to know what data has been collected about them, how it's being used, and how to relocate or delete that data as they see fit. In this part, there's one of your aha moments as well. Because you want to know something? Jasmy has described, even in the white paper, about accessing data and how it should be deleted when it needs to be, especially when it comes to the PDL. Understanding action, reaction, supply, and demand, the industry disruptors, or the industry enablers, in this case, an entire country, Japan. What about other particular countries? I think you get the idea. Jumping more into the outline, you're going to see some other key things here. Talks about, for example, Invisibly's report, because that's who wrote this up. They say that they maximize your value of your data and earn brand rewards for it. Data is collected if you decide to share it, putting you in direct control, connect your bank account, so on and so forth. And it says, literally, see how your data can work for you. And what was interesting is if you actually go here, I'm not going to do it with you guys because, I got to, I'll just give you guys kind of like a little, I say I won't do it with you guys. There's a little bit I'll get into. But if you go to this, for example, data.invisibly.com, you can have an idea how this works. Now, as you guys know, did you guys see Little Bidman's report on X? He was talking about, as we speak, Rob also reported it and so on. If you have an Apple iPhone and you're not part of the peasant class like myself with my Android, you can try out the Sagan Tosu fan token to earn DD points, right? And actually have a personal data logger. It's like the first one that's out there. There's going to be many more examples. But the point is, notice these concepts. Here it is from Invisibly, literally, which had a link from a Jasmy report connected to it. And as you see right here, some key things, okay? So I'll just put my last name. You guys know I'm Mr. Stanley. It's all good. I click on that. Hold on a second. I'm going to stop the share on that one. I want everybody to have my number. Guys, you can try this out for yourself if you choose to do so. It gives you an example of like steps to earn points. What is exactly going on as we speak? Steps to earn points with the SEG and TOSU token. I just think it was incredibly interesting that you see an investor place report literally about Jasmy and medical data evaluation. Then it links you to this, which literally gives you the exact, I should say exact, but gives you another example of how you have your data valued and they're going to reward you for it. And that was connected to a Jasmy article. Very interesting. Some of you guys ask what cold storage solution I use. I use this, and it is the Decent wallet. All right. I also, of course, have a ledger like this. All right. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, this is just a shield. And, you know, we'll fix point this out. And it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? You know, I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your significant other, you could get two of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this, and I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Decent wallet is not having to do the red tape of jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to Ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And, saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out, though, if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use for the most part. There's still some on Ledger that, I kind of split it up on it and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one to use.